House of the Dragon concluded its first season with 2 epic episodes, one focusing on Alicent and the other on Rhaenyra. These isolated perspectives highlight the complexity of each character and the dangerous political situation they are in. This video is sponsored by Next Chance Eco-Local Reusable Gift Wraps. Let's get this started. The death of a monarch should be a consequential moment for any monarchy, and Viserys' death is no different. But this transfer of power will surely make Westeros history. On the one hand, Rhaenyra, the designated heir to the throne, is miles away on Dragonstone, a critical mistake in this political climate. Maybe she expected the Greens to notify her immediately, call her back to King's Landing, and celebrate her crowning. But the Greens will do no such thing. In fact, Otto and Alicent will keep the news of Viserys' death a secret as long as possible. And they go as far as locking servants up to avoid leaks. They need to buy all the time they can if they want to crown Aegon, because the little brat is nowhere to be found. In fact, he does not want to be found because he doesn't want to be king. And so begins a multi-dimensional game of cat and mouse. The Greens must find Aegon and crown him as fast as possible before news of the king's death reaches Rhaenyra. Interestingly, Otto and Alicent put together competing search parties. Alicent enlists Sir Criston Cole and her son Aemond, while Otto sends Eric and Arik, by far the worst names of the whole franchise. Alicent wants to find Aegon first to ensure he won't murder Rhaenyra and her family upon accessing the throne, and Otto wants the opposite. So, despite playing for the same team, Alicent and Otto compete for drastically different visions of power. But can any of them actually control Aegon, or is he too reckless? Aemond and Criston start their search by visiting a brothel, but Aegon is not there. The locations both teams visit says a lot about Aegon and his time in the city. For instance, Eric and Arik suspect Aegon may be found at a child fight club, and there is a shot of this young boy who eerily resembles the Targaryens, as though Aegon has a bastard who lives at the child fight club. Aegon is not there, but the twins are told Mysaria knows where he is. This is the perfect opportunity to talk about Aemond, because some of you in the comment section said that I was not justified for saying that Aemond is looking for power, but here's why I think he is. Aemond says, "It is I who should reign." He says he deserves the throne more than his brother. He adds, "I'm next in line for the throne." But at this point of the story, Aemond is not the next in line, since Aegon has children, and therefore, his eldest is next in line. Regardless, Aemond and Criston must find Aegon first. While the search for Aegon rages on, Otto holds a swearing ceremony at the Red Keep to coerce lords to support Aegon's claim. Many took the same oath to Rhaenyra at the beginning of Season 1, in the same room. So, some lords refuse to bend the knee, and they are swiftly taken away, which sends a clear message: comply or you'll pay a price. Later, when one of the lords attempts an escape to tell Rhaenyra of the Greens' plan, he's hanged in public. This surely sends a strong message to anyone tempted to stand up to the Greens. Public executions are not exclusive to the Game of Thrones universe. In fact, public executions were common practice in medieval Europe and served to deter other people to commit crimes or betray power holders. Meanwhile, Alicent meets with Rhaenys, who's held captive in her chambers at the Red Keep. She tries to convince her to side with the Greens, and her approach is somewhat pragmatic for the circumstances. Alicent says, "Women do not rule, but we may guide men that do toward peace." Obviously, Alicent is aware of Rhaenys' past and panders to her. Otto visits Mysaria, She says she'll set Aegon free provided that the new green government puts an end to children fighting. So Mysaria leverages her effective spy network to bring justice to King's Landing. But can Otto be trusted? Mysaria reminds Otto that his power derives from the people. She says, "There is no power but what the people allow you to take." Eric and Arik finally manage to find Aegon. He's kicking and screaming, so they're forced to drag him out of the Sept, where they are confronted by Criston Cole. Arik fights Criston, but Eric flees the fight with the intent to support Rhaenyra. Earlier, Eric said that Aegon was unfit to rule, and Arik said they swore an oath. So the conflict between the Blacks and the Greens does not only affect the royal family, it splits other families too. Alone, Arik is no match for Criston and Aemond, so Alicent's team win custody of Aegon. But the future king says he does not want to rule. "I'm not suited," he says. So Aegon, much like his mother before him, is used to advance his family's ambitions for power. By the way, thank you so much for subscribing. I really mean it. Hi, I'm editing this video. For the record, I take no side, and no, it's not gaslighting you. If I wanted to gaslight you, I would tell you that I can easily change the color of my clothes in post-editing, and that I may or may not have done it in the past. But if you want to help and you want to join the fun, just subscribe. Back at the Red Keep, Alicent meets with Otto. Now that Aegon is in her custody, she has the upper hand, and Otto accepts his loss. She says, "We will send terms to Rhaenyra, and they'll tell her not to return." Alicent, who was under the control of her father for most of her life, finally gains power over him. She says, "We will proceed now as I see fit." Otto tells her, "I understand your squeamishness." He believes killing Rhaenyra would be the most expedient course of action to assert their legitimacy and keep power. Realistically, Otto is right. Rhaenyra poses a threat to Aegon's reign, but Alicent refuses to kill Rhaenyra. In the morning, Eric secretly frees Rhaenys before Aegon's coronation. On their way to the ceremony, Aegon tells Alicent, "My father never wanted this." He adds, "He didn't like me." And Aegon is right. There is no reason to think Viserys ever loved Aegon. Later, Aegon asks Alicent, "Do you love me?" She tells him he's an imbecile. Alicent gives Aegon the historic Targaryen knife, the one she used to slash Rhaenyra's arm. Symbols like this one are important to establish Aegon's legitimacy as king. More on that later. Alicent tells Aegon he should not kill Rhaenyra, but he doesn't care what Alicent says, and he probably won't care what Otto says either. So the Greens are sitting on a time bomb. But Aegon's coronation proceeds anyways. The ceremony takes place in the Dragon Pit in front of hundreds, if not thousands of subjects, and they appear happy about his crowning. We know from previous episodes that the people always preferred Aegon over Rhaenyra because he's male. The ceremony proceeds with the blessing of religious leaders who likely sided with the Greens during Rhaenyra's self-imposed exile on Dragonstone. In previous episodes, the Greens wrapped themselves in religious symbols, and it paid off. Aegon is crowned with Aegon the Conqueror's crown, a strong symbol of legitimacy. It's a departure from the crown Viserys wore. In addition to the crown and knife, Aegon wields Aegon the Conqueror's sword. As the ceremony wraps up, Aegon already seems drunk on the people's adoration. Perhaps he will try to please his subjects to keep their admiration, or maybe he will feel emboldened to push Alicent and Otto aside and assert his own power. We'll have to wait for the second season. And a lot can happen between now and season 2, like birthdays and anniversaries, which brings me to today's sponsor, Next Chance. Next Chance offers reusable gift wraps made of locally sourced and rescued fabrics. Most regular wrapping papers cannot be recycled, so they end up in the trash. That's why Next Chance commercialized a sustainable solution with reusable gift wraps, bows, wine bags, and so much more. You can support this channel by visiting nextchance.ca/GUI to see all their cute options. Use code GUI to get 15% off your next order and free shipping in the US and Canada. More info in the description box. Thank you Next Chance for sponsoring this video, and thanks for welcoming my dog and me when we visited your facilities. Back at the Dragon Pit, the Greens party is abruptly interrupted by Rhaenys on her dragon Meleys. It is worth noting that Rhaenys killed hundreds of innocent people in the process. She could have killed the Greens too, but decided to spare them and heads for Dragonstone instead. So now, Rhaenyra will definitely know about Aegon's crowning. In part 2 of my Rhaenyra analysis, we assessed how her self-exile to Dragonstone was a terrible strategic move, now more than ever. When Rhaenys arrives from King's Landing, Rhaenyra is faced with a fait accompli. Her half-brother Aegon has already been crowned in front of thousands with the blessing of religious leaders and the people. Perhaps this is the biggest difference between the Blacks and the Greens in Season 1. The Greens are interventionists. They get ahead of the curve, take risks, and force their opponents to react. The Blacks are reactionary. They play the game as it unfolds, assess their position, and mount a defense as best as they can. So once again, Rhaenyra is forced to defend her power, but this time the stakes are high, especially as the Greens control the seat of power and she's miles away. But all of this, Viserys' death, Alicent's betrayal, Aegon's crowning, it's a lot to take in, and Rhaenyra goes prematurely into labor. This scene gives us a glimpse into Rhaenyra's leadership challenge. While she's giving birth, Daemon is overseeing the Blacks' counterattack in her name, as though he was the real heir. Daemon is eager to go to war. But Rhaenyra does not want Daemon to start war while she's giving birth. Unfortunately, the baby is stillborn. So, in the midst of the drama, Rhaenyra and Daemon hold funerals. That's when Eric arrives on Dragonstone. Prior to his arrival, he sneaked Viserys' crown out of the Red Keep and delivers it to Rhaenyra. It may appear trivial, but a crown is a symbol of legitimacy, and now Rhaenyra and Aegon have a crown. And a makeshift coronation takes place. This is a huge contrast with Aegon's crowning. Everybody kneels before Rhaenyra except for Rhaenys. That's because Rhaenys sides with the Velaryons, and Corlys has yet to announce his support for Rhaenyra, but still, it is a little strange. Back inside, Rhaenyra holds a council with her advisors and allies. Before committing to a course of action against the Greens, she must assess her allies and military capabilities. Roughly, Rhaenyra believes the following houses are likely to support her claim: House Stark of the North, House Arryn of the Vale, House Tully of Riverlands, and House Baratheon of Stormlands. But we have reasons to believe Rhaenyra is overestimating support for her claim. Years of isolation on Dragonstone may have had an impact on her alliances. More on that later. House Tyrell of the Reach is likely to support the Greens. So is House Lannister of Westerland, and of course, the Greens control King's Landing, an important hub for economic and military power. Dorne and the Iron Islands are uncommitted. The Greens may have fewer allies, but they are powerful ones, and this grants them a conventional military advantage over the Blacks. But advisors around the table are quick to remind Rhaenyra of her most important asset for war: dragons. And there, the Blacks appear to have the upper hand. Roughly, here's how both sides stack. I know there are more dragons, but let's keep it simple. The Blacks have a few dragons of fighting age: Syrax, Caraxes, Vermax, Arax, Meleys, and Moon Dancer. And Daemon is trying to claim the gigantic dragon Vermithor. The Greens have Sunfire, Vhagar, and Dreamfire. But Rhaenyra is not ready to engage in a dragon war. Dragons are weapons of mass destruction, and most importantly, they are ridden by her family members and heirs. It is very risky. She says, "When dragons flew to war, everything burned." This reminds me of nuclear weapons in the real world. For instance, last year, 5 nuclear powers including China, Russia, Britain, the United States, and France released a joint statement. It read, "We affirm that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought." We'll have to wait for Season 2 to see if the Blacks or the Greens decide to engage their dragons in the conflict. So in short, the Greens have a bigger army, but the Blacks have more dragons. This is called asymmetrical warfare. In this case, the military capabilities of 2 powers are not simply unequal, but are so significantly different that they cannot make the same sort of attacks on each other. So this war will be hard to predict for both sides, and therefore difficult to wage. That's why Rhaenyra is happy to learn that the Velaryons will side with her. They may not control a lot of territories, but the Velaryons are wealthy, and their military dominance at sea is undeniable. The Velaryons will also help impose economic sanctions on the Greens. Otto meets Daemon and Rhaenyra on Dragonstone. He offers them peace terms. This is an indication that Otto respects Alicent's victory over him in the race to find Aegon. If Otto had his way, he would have Rhaenyra and Daemon murdered. The peace terms are as follows. Rhaenyra must give up her crown. In exchange, she can rule Dragonstone. Luke can rule Driftmark, but Daemon and Rhaenyra's 2 children would have to live in King's Landing. On behalf of Alicent, Otto gives Rhaenyra a piece of paper. It's the page that Rhaenyra gave to Alicent in episode 1. It's unclear what Alicent wants to convey with this gift, but it evokes an emotional response from Rhaenyra. To Daemon's surprise, Rhaenyra says she'll think about the peace terms. It's a sign of strength in my opinion. Strong leaders don't engage in impulsive decision making, especially not on the brink of war. Earlier in this video, we saw how Alicent and Otto, the core duo of the Green faction, can engage in an internal fight for power. Daemon and Rhaenyra are also fighting for power. When Daemon challenges Rhaenyra's authority in front of everybody, she requests they speak in private. And Daemon turns violent. He grabs her by the neck. This is a way for Daemon to assert his power over her. If he wanted, he could have killed her right then and now. This illustrates well the difference between the 2 factions. When the Greens disagreed on a course of action, they set clear terms. For instance, whoever captures Aegon first gets their way, and the loser must respect the outcome. In this case, Otto lost fair and square, so he delivered a peace offer to Rhaenyra as per Alicent's wish. On the contrary, when the Blacks had a disagreement, Rhaenyra, who's technically the monarch, confronted the problem in private, and Daemon turned violent. He imposed his physical strength over Rhaenyra as a way to bend her into submission. So the Greens somewhat function as a meritocracy, whereas Rhaenyra's leadership may be compromised by threats of physical violence by Daemon, who's likely to lead war efforts on her behalf. It will be difficult to operate in this context. Earlier, we discussed how Rhaenyra may be overestimating support for her claim. The final chapter of the season makes this evident. Rhaenyra sends her sons, Jace and Luke, on 2 diplomatic missions to lobby and confirm key allies to defend her crown. But Rhaenyra does not want to endanger her line of succession, so she sends them on what she believes to be fairly safe missions. Jace, her oldest and heir to her claim, will fly to the Vale to lobby House Arryn. Then, he'll head north to lobby House Stark. We are likely to see how his mission unfolds in Season 2. Luke, her second child and heir to Driftmark, will fly to Stormlands to lobby House Baratheon. This is viewed as the easier mission of the two. That's why Rhaenyra sends Luke. House Baratheon previously swore an oath to Rhaenyra, so she's fairly confident of their support. When Luke arrives in Storm's End, he sees Vhagar chilling outside the castle, a sign that Aemond was also sent to lobby House Baratheon. Aemond and Luke have a long-standing beef. On top of that, House Baratheon appears to side with the Greens. So Rhaenyra miscalculated how much support she may actually have. Could she be wrong about other presumed allies? The Greens have been scheming for years to take power. Perhaps they forged more alliances than she thinks. Tensions rise on Storm's End. Aemond wants revenge, so he pulls out his knife. Frightened, Luke draws his sword, but before they can fight, Lord Baratheon orders them to leave. Luke rides Arrax and starts heading back to Dragonstone, but Aemond chases him on Vhagar, who is undoubtedly a superior war machine. Just look at the size of it. But dragon riders might not control dragons as much as they like to believe. When Arrax attacks Vhagar without Luke's consent, Vhagar kills Luke and Arrax, and Aemond is shocked. This event will surely accelerate the conflict in the next season. And that's where the conflict between Rhaenyra and Alicent stands at the end of Season 1. I want to know what you think in the comments below, and let me know what other movies and series I should cover next.